so you always put them in the same place, whether at home, at work, or in your bag.
I'd say the changes I've noticed in my memory while I've been pregnant is forgetfulness, like sort of halfway through a sentence, and I just find myself completely lost of what I was saying, or halfway through doing something, I'm like, what was I doing, where was I going?
Have a go at test number 2.
Earlier, we looked at how our memory develops in childhood, but once we become adults, there's a group who are thought to be prone to memory lapses, pregnant women. They often believe that their memory is deteriorating. But are they right?
Fantastic.
Oh!
11 out of 10.
How did you get that?
I did find when I got pregnant that almost everything emptied out of my head for a few months. And it was only just coming back again about 4 months, 5 months after I had my first baby, and then I was pregnant again. So I'm a bit of a casualty at the moment of 2 pregnancies in 3 years.
I was just the classic case, actually. I couldn't remember anything. I remember usually that if I'm going to a shop, I can just jot down a few notes and I can just steam through with my trolley and come back with everything I want. And I remember dithering in the middle of the supermarket thinking, what was I going to get? You know, and then I'd spend half an hour trying to decide between a cabbage and a Brussels sprout.
I mean, my memory for some things is so bad that it would be hard to make it worse. And when I was pregnant, I can't say that it did make it worse. You know, is that just something blokes have made up, really?
Recent research by the University of Sunderland suggested against widespread belief that the memories of women who are expecting are no worse than those who aren't. They do, however, record slight differences in speed of language processing. Dr Ros Crawley, who carried out the research, has been cross-checking her findings with our Memory Manor volunteers. Ros, tell me, what have you found?
Well, we asked the pregnant women to tell us whether they thought their memory and attention had changed since they became pregnant, and indeed they did report widespread changes in both memory and attention.
So the pregnant ladies here are saying, yes, our memories are much worse now we're pregnant.
Yes.
And then you tested them?
Yes, we tested them on 2 tests of working memory and compared their performance with a group of non-pregnant women, and there was no difference.
So why would women who are pregnant or people who are close to women who are pregnant say their memories are much worse when actually we're finding from research at the moment that they're not?
Well, one possibility is that the stereotype has built up that this is what happens when you're pregnant, and the women are so aware of that stereotype that if they make the sort of memory slips that we all make in everyday life, they attribute it to their pregnancy, they notice it, and that reinforces their belief that this is what happens when you're pregnant.
Or it could be that when we're pregnant, our memories don't fail us. It's just that our minds are concentrated elsewhere.
So far, we've looked at memory for everyday objects, numbers, names and faces, and spatial layout. Now we're moving on to the ability to store facts and figures, and this is known as semantic memory. Those of you that are fans of the Antiques Roadshow will have noticed a familiar face amongst our volunteers. It's none other than antiques expert Paul Atterbury. We've invited him along because of his expert knowledge in the antiques business. He's got a fantastic memory for a huge range of objects from the 19th and 20th century. Here he is in action.
Emigrated to America in 1939. She became an American citizen in 1945 and lived the rest of her life there until she died in 1989. We've got a Japanese sword which is of about the 1880s, so therefore that fits in. This, as I say, is about the 1870s. It's not a great Patterson painting, so you're looking at sort of £800, £1,000. How do I remember things? Well, I think it's largely luck. I think I was born with a good mind or a good memory. But I was partly trained by my grandparents, who used to take me on long walks with lists of things to find. And really they trained me to be visual. And since a child, I've just always noticed things and been able to store them away.
Paul's a whiz with 19th and 20th century objects, but Memory Manor is Elizabethan. So we decided to send him on a tour of the house with some of our volunteers to see how much he can remember. Meet Tony and Denise, Jill and Alison, Sharon and Simon, and of course, Paul Atterbury.
Hello and welcome to Memory Manor. This is the home of the Marquis of Bath, and he is the 14th generation who's lived here. The house has been in the family for 426 years now.
Head tour guide Claire Mound will lead the group through the house. They've got to memorise every point before going head-to-head in a final test.
Now Now we're in the room known as the Red Library from the colour of its wall coverings, and we have here about 40,000 books in the whole house, but 5,000 in this room.
Can Paul's antiques expertise help him against the Memory Manor volunteers?
Now you've come into the lower dining room, the family dining room. The last person who actually ate in here was when Queen Elizabeth II came for lunch to celebrate the house's 400th anniversary. In the corner here, we've got a portrait of a very notorious lady, Lady Isabella Rich. She danced, we're told, naked on London Bridge and possibly caused it to fall down. The origin of the children's nursery rhyme, London Bridge is falling down. Now, I think we need to see whether you've been listening and have remembered all those facts and figures.
So the pressure's on to remember every detail, and it's not just Paul who risks losing face. Our 3 lowest scorers will be sent off on safari with Mind Mentor Tony Bazan.
So we now have your results. The moment of revelation. Could Alison and Sharon and Jill step forward, please? You're now going off to the Lansdowne to improve your memory. And we have got an outright winner. Paul, you have done fantastically.
What a relief.
Yes, well done, Paul. Now for our struggling volunteers, it's off to the safari park with Memory Master Tony Bazan.
Would you like to be memory maestros?
Oh, definitely.
Yes. Then in a very little time, you will be that. You will be, and I promise you, memory maestros. Follow me.
Excellent, thank you.
Later, we'll find out how they fare in the lion's den.
As we've seen, trying to remember everyday objects or items can be made much easier if you try and give the words meaning or construct a story around them. But trying to remember the exact words parrot fashion is much more difficult. So, if you're doing a presentation for work or a best man speech, or you're taking to the stage, learning whole phrases and sentences can be extremely daunting. One trick, though, is to find the natural rhythm